Well, my friends, thank you for your patience. There's some chairs up here if you want to come sit. I've heard a story that people in Washington, D.C. don't know how to drive in the rain. That has been evidenced. I also heard a story that the security lines are somewhat tedious getting into the Capitol when the Congress is in session. We have had that experience as well. But we are ready to rock, so don't worry. Welcome to the United States Capitol Historical Society's 2025 Freedom Award ceremony. My name is Jane Campbell, and I have the honor of serving as the President and CEO of the Society. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And in that role, I will be the Master of Ceremonies, so you will do as I say. And the first order of business is that you will all stand as you are able for the presentation of the colors by the Capitol Police, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me as we recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. If you would please remain standing for our invocation by the chaplain, Reverend Margaret Kibben. Chaplain Kibben.
Would you pray with me? Holy and generous God, we give you thanks for this opportunity to celebrate one whose sincere and devoted commitment to you and to the freedoms this country holds dear serves as an example to all of us. On this very special day, we celebrate one such faithful servant, former Congressman Patrick McHenry. For it is you who allowed him to be in the right rooms, not to light things up from an outsider's passion, as our bow-tied honoree may have first been inclined to do, but in his 20 years here on the Hill, you refined his ardor and honed it with wisdom, knowing that his enthusiasm for excellence, his desire for right outcomes would prepare him to step into the arena as a man worthy of the trust of those with whom he served for a critical time in history, earning also the confidence of the entire nation. We pray that this illustrious award will reflect adequately the gratitude so many feel for Representative McHenry's willingness to go above and beyond in his service to this Congress and its preservation of freedom and democracy. Speak then, O Lord, through our accolades and our applause, rewarding him for his commitment to this country and his unrivaled, albeit unanticipated, exceptional moral example. May he hear above it all your own well done for his good and faithful servants. In your strong and holy name we pray. Amen.
You may be seated. Thank you, Chaplain Kibben. You always have a way to have the right words. We are gathered here, as the chaplain set forth, to honor someone whose work shows a commitment to the principle of freedom as represented by the Statue of Freedom that stands atop our beloved Capitol. Tonight, we add Congressman and Speaker Patrick McHenry to those who have gone before as honoree. We are fortunate tonight to have within the audience one of our prior honorees, Cheryl Johnson. I know I saw you earlier. Thank you very much for being with us, Madam Clerk. We are exceedingly grateful to Speaker Mike Johnson, who you will see in the program is listed, but he intended to be here. He does certainly honor you, Mr. McHenry. He has a few things going on, and so he sends his greetings, his appreciation, and this wonderful space to hold our event. We have had a number of members of Congress join us during the course of the time, which really speaks volumes to the respect that you have amongst your colleagues, that during this busy moment, things would be going on. But before we have our history lesson, which we always have to have as part of a Capitol Historical Society event, we would like to hear from our lead sponsor for tonight. You know, these events are only possible because of the contributions of philanthropic organizations, corporations that believe that the power of our democracy is important and that building informed patriotism makes a difference. And so tonight we will hear from our lead sponsor, Wells Fargo, in the person of Freddie Mitchell, Senior Vice President for Federal Government Relations, and fortunately for us, a member of the Capitol Historical Society Board. Mr. Mitchell.
Thank you, Jane, for those kind words. This is a great evening. On behalf of Wells Fargo, we're proud to sponsor today's ceremony. I'd also like to extend a warm welcome to Speaker McCarthy, Chairman Hill, and all of you joining us today to honor Chairman McHenry with the Freedom Award. This award recognizes individuals who have deepened public understanding and appreciation for the freedoms represented by Congress and symbolized by our Capitol. Chairman McHenry exemplifies these ideals. Certainly, his record of service speaks for itself, and we all know that. Still, it's worth pausing to reflect on it. As a representative from North Carolina's 10th District, he was a tireless advocate for his constituents and their voice in Washington. Many of us also know him as the former chairman of the House Financial Services Committee. But perhaps most notably, his unwavering belief in our Constitution and institutions earned him the role of Speaker Pro Tem during a pivotal moment in American history. His calm, humble, and steady leadership helped guide the House forward during a time of transition. As both a member of the board of the Capitol Historical Society and an American citizen, I can think of no better individual more deserving of this honor. Thank you all for being here today, and congratulations to Chairman McHenry. At this time, let us now hear from one of Mr. McHenry's colleagues who worked with him on the Financial Services Committee and now leads that body, Congressman French Hill of Arkansas, Chairman of the House Financial Services Committee. Please join me in welcoming him to the stand.
Well, it's such a pleasure to be with Patrick and his beautiful family and honor him in this way and to share the dais with our distinguished Speaker McCarthy. Thank you, Freddie. Thank you, Jane, for welcoming all for this wonderful occasion as we gather here in historic Statuary Hall to celebrate the 55th and a half Speaker of the United States House of Representatives. You know, you can't be in a historic room like this without pointing out a few historic facts from the most distinguished voices that have served in the legislative branch since the very first Congress. There was James Madison, 5'4". There was John Adams, 5'7". There was my mentor, boss, and great friend, the senior senator from Texas, John Tower, at 5'6". Tower, to replace Lyndon Johnson in 1961, campaigned against 35 other people. And he said, "My name is Tower, and I don't." What do all these men have in common? It's a bond, not just of similar height, but of standing tall for our nation. And that's exactly why we gather today in historic Statuary Hall to honor our former colleague, friend, Patrick McHenry, who devoted the last 2 decades of his life serving the people of North Carolina and his country. Patrick shares many of the values that those extraordinary congressional leaders that came before him that I mentioned modeled on a daily basis. A keen sense of institutional respect, partnership with his colleagues, and a strong vision for sound policy and American progress. In Congress, Patrick developed as a political leader. His work ethic and skills recognized by his peers led him to rise as a leader within the Republican conference, first serving as Chief Deputy Whip from 2018 to 2019, and then being chosen by his peers to lead the House Financial Services Committee for the Republicans from 2019 to 2024. Just look at who Speaker Kevin McCarthy appointed as Speaker Pro Tem in October of 23. Each speaker develops a secret ranking of members to step in should there be an unfortunate loss of a Speaker of the House. Kevin McCarthy could have selected anyone to head this critical list, but he chose Patrick McHenry to lead the House and guide Republicans in an unprecedented time of turmoil and the unknown. At a mighty 5'2", Patrick stood tall and guided our conference through those 22 days with poise and grace, navigating challenges in a situation that no one else in the United States history had ever been quite tasked to handle. As chairman of the House Financial Services Committee, Patrick ushered in a new era for digital assets and financial technology. His valiant efforts came to fruition just a few weeks ago when President Trump signed the Genius Act into law, creating the first ever federal regulatory framework for payment stablecoins. Without Patrick's tireless, extensive work and standing his ground for firm policy beliefs on this topic, America would remain behind, dazed and confused. Instead, we're on track to lead global fintech innovation. I really can't think of a better person to receive the Freedom Award. Patrick just isn't a faithful civil servant. He's a fiercely loyal friend, leader, husband, and father. And I'll leave you with a little history lesson, but one that nods to Patrick's home state of North Carolina. Our friendship is similar to the one shared between the Marquis de Lafayette and George Washington. One of honest counsel, a little humor, and brotherly bond over our love for America. When Lafayette returned to North Carolina on his national tour in 1825, in Lafayette, North Carolina, he said, "Upon entering the interesting and prosperous town which has done me the honor to adopt my name, I can at once admire its actual progress and anticipate its future destiny." And now, Patrick, you can channel your inner Lafayette. You can admire the progress that we're making in Congress on issues for which you passionately fought. And now I have the great honor of turning the podium back over to Jane. And let me say to the 55th and a half Speaker of the House, congratulations.
Mr. Chairman, you've done a good job with your history lesson, and I appreciate you representing my daughter, who is one of his fine constituents there in Little Rock, which we always have to have that conversation. You know, this week, this is your history lesson. This week is a special week for the Capitol. Tomorrow is the anniversary date of the signing of the Constitution and sending it out for ratification amongst the states, which he did in 1793, long before it was actually built, when it was just a dream. And so we have selected this particular time to hold our Freedom Award. In the decades since George Washington laid that cornerstone, we have come together as Americans. Sometimes we say we come to the Capitol to argue. We come to the Capitol to share our concerns, but ultimately we come to the Capitol to share our hopes and our dreams for this nation. American history is replete with stories of individuals who met the moment when circumstances demanded leadership. And only because there were people like Patrick McHenry who met the moment has our nation been able to long endure. We're coming up on the 250th anniversary of the birth of our nation, the semi-sesquicentennial. Yes, I learned how to pronounce that. We can have a, conversation about it. But think about one of the real hallmarks is our ability to have continuity of government, to be able to transfer between parties, between individuals. And so think about it. In 1841, 52 years after George Washington had sworn his first oath of office as President of the United States, our nation had its first non-electoral presidential transition following the death of William Henry Harrison. John Tyler, who had served as a United States representative in this very room, established the precedent that a vice president of the United States would become fully the president upon the departure of their predecessor. This was new ground, and trust me, there was a debate. Such leading figures as John Quincy Adams and Henry Clay voiced opposition, referring to Mr. Tyler as his accidency. Now, history would bear out in Tyler's favor, but Congress takes a bit of time to, actualize that. And the 25th Amendment was ratified in 1967, just a few years later, somewhat clearly unambiguously stating that the vice president is really the president. The 25th Amendment would then be used 3 times within a decade of its ratification. Challenging times indeed. Vice President Spiro Agnew resigned in October '73. President Nixon used the 25th Amendment to nominate House Minority Leader Gerald Ford to take his place. 10 months later, Nixon resigned and Gerald Ford became president without ever having gone through that election, the first time in history. But throughout this tumultuous time, the American people could rely on the government as it was laid out in the Constitution and ensure the continuity. 24 years later, on September 11th, 2001, the heroic passengers and crew of United Airlines 93 forced their hijackers to crash in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, probably saving this building and Congress from untold death and destruction. And that tragedy revealed shortcomings in the security procedures and in the continuity of government about Article 1, our Congress, determined to secure our democratic institutions when the 108th Congress convened in January 2003, just 2 years later, like heroic time for Congress, right? They adopted a new rule that when the House of Representatives created a speaker, the speaker would make a list of who would succeed the speaker in the event that the speaker was unable to serve from some unknown activity. And those envelopes are sealed and kept in a safe, one in the clerk's office, and I learned from our former clerk, who was our honoree, there's also a safe in the clerk's home. Those envelopes are not opened. They are just sealed. But think about that. You know, historians are not ever supposed to say things are unprecedented because stuff keeps happening and you never know what's going to happen. But it did seem a little unprecedented when the chair was vacated. And they had to open the envelope that Speaker McCarthy had put together. And you think about what's going on today and the division and the tragedies and the violence that we see in politics. And we know that Speaker McCarthy and the speakers before and after him must have thought carefully when they made that list about who should be number one. Because by virtue of the fact that that envelope had to be opened, something unusual went on. It was a crisis, and there would be needed a person who could meet that crisis. We're honoring Mr. McHenry not because his name was on the list, but because when his name came up, he served with calm and with dignity. And so I present to you the man who put him on the list, Mr. McCarthy.
Thank you very much, Patrick, Julia, Cecilia, Reese, Perry. Thank you for being here tonight. We gather here tonight to recognize a true legend of the House, Patrick McHenry. Not only for what he did, but the way he did it. Now, Patrick is a dear friend, a trusted advisor, a respected chairman, and for 22 unforgettable days, a steady hand as Speaker Pro Tem. Patrick and I came to Congress around the same time. He was one term before me. And I can still remember those early days. I'm not sure you would recognize the Patrick that first arrived. Some called him an attack dog. Steny Hoyer called him a real pain in the neck. And to be honest, he is still that way at times, but only a few. Meanwhile, Donald Trump would say, Patrick has the greatest name in politics. He said if he had that name, he would have been elected president sooner. Because behind all the bomb throwing and the bow ties was something deeper. Patrick loves our country. He is determined to change Washington for the better, and he did. When he was deputy whip, our whip, Steve Scalise, was tragically shot in 2017. Patrick stepped up to lead our whip team. No one had to ask him twice. That's just what Patrick does. He rises to the occasion. As chairman of the House Financial Services, he earned a bipartisan respect and gave innovation a voice in Congress, from the Jobs Act to the crypto policy. Now here's the thing about Patrick. He never chased the spotlight. In fact, he often tried to stay out of the fray. When given the chance to run for Majority Whip in 2023, Patrick said no. He told one reporter that the next Congress would have two brutal battles. They had to raise the debt limit and keep the government open. So he passed on joining leadership. In his own words, and I quote, "I'm much more optimistic about the opportunities we have in financial services than the role I could play in the House GOP leadership." Sorry, Patrick, I had other plans. The debt ceiling may have been a fight Patrick didn't want. So naturally, he was exactly the right person to help negotiate with the Biden administration. And with days to spare, Patrick helped pass the largest deficit reduction bill in the history of Congress. That was Washington for you. Then came one of the toughest chapters in the history of the House. I knew what was coming around this time 2 years ago. And I knew the House would need steady leadership. So I remember that phone call. It was late one night, and I called him up, and I said, "Patrick, they're going to take a run. The Dems won't keep their word, and I have to make a decision. And I want to know if you would allow me to put your name and serve as Speaker." I told him it wouldn't take much. He just has to be there a short time till they elect a new one. I walked him through it and why I wanted him to do it. I wanted someone who could work with all sides, someone who wasn't seeking the job, someone who had been a committee chair. Patrick was the perfect fit. Now, I'll admit it was the first time he heard about the list. He never asked for the power, and he never ran for that chair. But when that moment came, he famously took that gavel and he slammed it down. And once again, he rose to the occasion. Now Patrick will be forever known as Speaker 55 and a half. I did buy him a chair with that number on it. What was supposed to be a job for only a few days turned into more than 3 weeks with the entire world watching. Fortunately for the country, when the People's House needed it most, Patrick was the hand of stability that steered us through the storm. Freedom is not preserved by titles, but by service. Leadership is not always a choice, but a calling. When the call came, Patrick answered every single time. And that's why he deserves this award. President John Quincy Adams once said, "If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, then you are a leader." By that standard, Patrick is the ultimate leader. Patrick, you showed us that cooperation is not the enemy of conviction. They are partners for lasting change. Your legacy goes beyond the laws you passed and the gavels you held. Your legacy is in the institution you strengthened, the chamber you steadied, and the example you set. You made Congress better. You made us prouder to serve. Congratulations, my friend. It is my honor tonight to help present you with the 2025 Freedom Award. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Patrick and all the program's participants.
Thank you, Speaker McCarthy. My name is Dante Smalls. I'm the chairman of the U.S. Capitol Historical Society Board, and it is my pleasure, distinct honor, to present the 2025 Freedom Award presented to the Honorable Patrick McHenry by the United States Capitol Historical Society in recognition of his distinguished service and his commitment to the U.S. House of Representatives, most notably displayed during his more than 3 weeks as acting Speaker Pro Tempore in the 118th Congress, when he provided calm leadership, when he provided for continuing operation of the legislative branch in these unprecedented circumstances, and is presented on September 16, 2025 in Statuary Hall. Speaker.
Thank you. Kevin, French, of all my choices of people to speak tonight, you two were the most available, so thank you. No, the truth is I was nervous. I was just nervous because I know them so well, and I see French looking at me, and I think I see that little spark that Martha tries to keep tamed, and I think, what is he going to say now? And Kevin, my dear friend, oh my gosh, the laughs that we've had. But thank you. Thank you both. Thank you all for being here tonight. This is truly an honor. But Kevin, I would not be here without you. You define what excellence is in this House of Representatives. No one had a faster rise to leadership than you in the history of the U.S. House. They say excellence is the capacity to take pain. You, my friend, are excellent. But what people did not see is mastery. And I've used this word with you, but mastery, it's understanding all the things you could know about an institution and its people, and understanding the opportunities, and seeing something else no one else can see, and having that feel. And you had just the best feel of what the potential was, which is why you're a speaker. No one was better. No one was better at managing the House and getting the best out of it. And it's an honor to work with you. The laughs that we've had, the trouble you've gotten me into. It was after the election, I'll share this with you, that I'm waiting outside of Cecilia's dance class, and Kevin calls me, and he ripped me apart. Some of you have had these calls. He rips me apart. First, because I didn't run for whip, and a whole series of other things. And when I hung up the phone, sitting in that hallway, I marked the spot, I looked down, and I said, Whenever Kevin asks me to do something, I'll say yes. Now, you are such a good friend that you would do exactly what French would do, which was mess with me if you actually knew that I had done that. But I marked that I would say yes when you ask me. So random times, I'm in the middle of something important, I say to my staff, to their utter anger, that I have to go over to the Speaker's office. And sometimes I'd come back in 15 minutes, sometimes I'd come back 3 weeks later. But that pledge that I made in that hallway to myself got me into the most substantive work of my whole congressional career. It's because you trusted me and you knew that I would always be your friend. And thank you, Kevin. Thank you for your friendship. Thank you for believing in me. And French, my much more experienced mentee, right? My vice chair on financial services, my sidekick, right? The Robin to my Batman. None of these things, that's just silly. It's just silly. Sorry. But French, when I asked you to be vice chair, you told me that is not a position of any worth and value. And of the gifts that I had as chairman, I gave French a couple of gifts, and he looked at me and thought, I have not asked for these things. I've asked for better things. These are not good things. And it was of the generosity that I had as chairman, like the worst meeting I had. And I thought I was actually being a chef. I'm like making this exquisite set of policy that we're going to get signed into law. And little did I know that I was setting the table for a true chef. And to watch you work as chairman makes me so proud. You are the most experienced, the greatest chairman of the Financial Services Committee, me included. And it is amazing to watch you work. And it was a pleasure to work by your side and learn from you. Thank you for your friendship. And it's truly a blessing to have good friends in this process, and good friends indeed. I want to thank the Capitol Historical Society. Thank you so much for preserving this, what I believe to be the gem of our institutions, and to protect it. And thank you for all the board members who put in the extra effort and had the misguided belief that I would be a good event. And I want to thank Team McHenry, all the folks that I got to work with over all those years that gave me great advice, some of which I listened to and heeded, and others I did not. But thank you for your support, for believing in me, and to make all of these days much more fun, much more enjoyable. And for our ability to celebrate successes, yes, but also defeats. When things go wrong, and being able to learn from it and laugh about it, and to know that we can do it better next time, it made it just a joy and made those 20 years fly by. But tonight, the only thing the word that keeps coming back to mind is gratitude. I mean, 20 years of public service, nasty campaigns, everyone saying, oh, but those were the good years. They didn't feel like good years where you get your teeth kicked in politically. But I look back at it with all gratitude for the people of North Carolina to give me the opportunity, a 29-year-old, just barely, person with great visions of grandeur, and to come to the House of Representatives and to be taught important lessons. Some by friends, others by enemies, but lessons that I learned every day. And to be able to do meaningful work. I have such gratitude for that. We always hear when people step out of politics, they say, oh, we herald the divisions that we have in the three branches of government. Oh, the founders were brilliant and how they balanced this thing out. No one in office actually says that. It's only when you step away you realize the majesty and the balance of this thing. But when you're in it, it's the grind. It's what you're doing every day. And it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good. And that's okay. but you know you're doing it for a greater cause and the belief in this thing we call America, truly a nation founded on a belief. And to be able to contribute something to that for a period of time is its own great gift. So gratitude. But the truth is the House is this place that, it's just real people trying to do the best they can in often difficult, divided moments. And we did great work with that. And it's the people who make our good system better. It's great people that make the best of those moments. And the House is truly a special place. Article 1, Mr. Speaker, is the legislative branch, the most dynamic, fluid branch, closest to the people, the House closest still. It's always been on a knife's edge of descending into chaos. It's where guys that look like me, that are my height, can end up in the middle of fistfights. Thanks, Kevin, for that one, too. And my friend Richard Hudson for pulling me out of the situation. But as an institution, we empower the Speaker to be strong on the House's behalf. This power keeps our constitutional system in balance. A weak speakership throws off the flywheel of American progress and the necessary constitutional checks on the other branches. If one branch is weak, the whole government is off kilter. So it's necessary to defend that institution. And it was my honor, it was my duty, it was my obligation, I felt, to resist the decaying of a strong speakership, to say no to what was and what many folks wanted is my ambition, and my ambition being a check on actually the progress for the institution. And the best thing I could do was to say no, to resist. And for 23 days in October of 23, my love and respect for the institution of the House mattered. And for that, I am eternally grateful, not just to the House, but especially to my friend Speaker McCarthy, who believed in me, and my colleagues gave me their support, often by my announcements of the direction we're going to take and the roaring boos from the House Republican Conference. And those boos were so affirming the third time it happened because I knew they would thank me. But to also know that you had people you could rely upon when you're in that moment. I was fond of giving Speaker McCarthy unsolicited advice. I would call him at random hours and tell him how terrible he was doing, right? And I would tell him in vivid terms where to get his head removed from. And he'd just get his wits about him. And it was on the second day of being Speaker Pro Tem that I got a phone call from my friend Kevin, who has just gone through this very horrific moment for his leadership. And he took the moment to give me his wisdom and to use the exact same very coarse language with me about how dumb I was acting in the moment. And it felt so good to get that advice, wisdom, and counsel. So Kevin, thank you for that as well. But in that moment of pressure, I was reminded of a few things of faith, the foundations that my parents gave me, exposure they gave me. And there's this very Catholic notion, spiritual notion of mortification. Not going to give you a long talk about it, but it is a sense of dying. It is this dying to self, right? If you're truly a believer in Christ, that you should die to your own self-interest and purpose and live for Him. Now, I'm not going to say these trying moments of political discourse are like that. They're not. But that sense of saying what is right for me versus what is right for the institution, you need to listen and understand that you have to die to your ambitions for the greater good. And there are moments where you can do that. And it was an honor to have a moment like that, to be tested and to rise to the occasion. So I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you, and most importantly, to the people that have made this possible. My family, not just my aunt and uncle who let me stay in their basement when I interned. but my parents, my brothers and sisters, but most importantly, the woman who changed my life, Julia. Thank you for loving me. Thank you for caring for me and our family. Thank you for carrying us. It was in the middle of COVID that I realized that she organized these things in the evening with our children. And I asked what it was, how often you did this. She's like, it's called dinner. We seek to do this every night. And it was this first lens into the fact that not only was she the breadwinner, but she was the heart and soul of the whole family and kept things running when I was elsewhere. Thank you. It is your demand for excellence that has made me a better human being and hopefully a little more productive for society. So thank you. And for you can clap. That would be lovely. So, and to Cecilia and Reese, who's I think in the bathroom now, and Perry, who at 4 years old proclaimed that he did not want to be here, which is what most of you are thinking at this phase of my speech as well. But you truly changed my life and defined love for me, and I love you. Let me just close with this, and I said gratitude a lot, but my prayer as a member of Congress and in public life was for fortitude. It's not bravery, it's not that. It's knowing that in a moment when you're tried, that you're going to do the right thing. So fortitude and gratitude are the words that just kept coming back to me. But understand that the reward for good work is more work. I love the work. I love the rewards of the great people in the House that I got to work with, the institution, the country, state of North Carolina. And it was great people and friendships that made the difference along the way. That truly, to me, is the gift that came back to me. I thought it was going to be policy that would be my mark on the House. But we all know that we all seek to live a life with meaning and value, that perhaps our little contribution will be remembered. And the truth is that it's everyday life. We do this to our friends, our family, the people we work with, being available to our friends and loved ones and trying to impact their lives. That truly is the gift that we all have the capacity to give. So with gratitude, I say thank you. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you is the order of the evening. Thank you to each of you for being here, for being with us, for dealing with our getting started late. We are grateful again to Speaker Johnson for allowing us to be in this room, for his distinguished staff. As you see running around, putting this together, the staff of the United States Capitol Historical Society, led in this event by Sharice Clark. Wave your hand, Sharice. And our development manager, Katie Ryan, who's with us. Right there she is. Our executive vice president, Sam Holliday, who's like the logistics king of all things. And let's have all the staff just come forward real quickly, including you, Yanni. Come on, just get a little round of applause for the Capitol Historical Society staff. And Karen, come on. And I want, you got to be really careful in this job because I have bosses too. So you heard from Dante when he presented the award. but I'd like the rest of the board to stand up. These are my bosses, the board of the Capitol Historical Society. And we are grateful for Wells Fargo, for Aflac. Is Crystal here with us? And the Innovation Pack, who all donated. There you are, Chris. Wave. Who all donated to make this event possible. So we thank you. More than anything, we thank you, Mr. McHenry, because people came. You gave us a hard time. They came because of you. And we're here because of you, and we appreciate what you've done and what you will continue to do. So now what you continue to do is visit, enjoy the food, the drink, the conversation. Our distinguished photographer, Bruce Guthrie, will take pictures of you with whoever you want. Just talk to him. All right. Thank you very much.